Tweetify is a platform where you can connect your Twitter account, get a bunch of other users to connect their Twitter account, providing you authorization to repost on their behalf. For example, Composio is a Twitter user who has signed up on Tweetify, so whenever they make a post on Twitter, it would automatically be reposted on behalf of the authorized user. So in this case, James Wozniak has reposted the post with the repost code. This is the overview of how Tweetify works. The frontend is developed using React.js, Vite, and Tailwind. For authorization and database, I've used Firebase. And for the backend part, I've used Fast API. And for creating agents, I've used Crew AI and Composio tools. Composio is an integration platform for AI agents. It has over 100 tools, for example, GitHub, Salesforce. In my case, I'm using Twitter. And the best part about Composio is they manage the authentication for all users from a single dashboard. So basically, Composio has a lot of tools. Each tool will be having multiple actions. So basically, this is like a small task the agent can perform by using it. For example, it could be like create a new post on Twitter or repost an existing tweet. Next is action ID. This is basically the unique ID of the action which we can use while we are coding. Next is app or tool ID. This is the unique identifier for the tool. Tool in the sense it could be Twitter, GitHub, Salesforce. Next is integration ID. This is the ID of the app or tool integration. Each tool that we integrate has a specific integration ID. Next is entity ID. This is the unique identifier that we can use while we are referencing a connected account in code. Next is initiate connection. So using this, we can initiate a new connection for a specific tool or app. If required, pause the video and have a glance at these terms because I would be using this further in the video. I'll give a walkthrough on how to use Composio via the user interface, as this will make it easier to understand how to use it programmatically. We need to click on sign in, then go to tools catalog. So these are all the tools that are available. Look for Twitter, then click on setup Twitter integration. You can name it something and then click on save. This is the integration ID that I was talking about earlier. Click on add account and then connect to Twitter. It will redirect you to a different page where you need to authorize. Once that is done, your account would be added, and this would be the account ID, and this is the entity ID. Entity ID is something unique, and this is what we would be using when we are trying to connect an account to this specific integration. If you click on actions, you can see all the available actions this specific tool can perform. So one of the actions that I'm using is creation of a post. Basically, it causes the user to create a post under the authorized account, and this is the action ID. This is something we would be using in the code. So these are the main three files that are related to creating a Twitter integration and then the agentic code. I'll start with composio_config file. This is the first function, create Twitter integration and initiate admin connection. In this function, I'm creating a new Twitter integration and adding admin as the new entity. Start by creating an instance of Composio toolset. You need to pass the Composio API key and then the entity ID. Entity ID could be anything which is unique. Next, store the entity in a variable and then get the Twitter app ID. To get the app ID, click on docs, click on API, and then click on app. Here you need to pass the API key and then click on send. In response, you'll get the app and the associated app ID. So go to a settings page and then copy the API key. Paste it here and hit send. Now look for Twitter. So this is the app ID that is associated with Twitter tool. So you need to use this while you're creating an integration. So this is how you are supposed to create a new integration. You need to pass in the name and then you need to pass the app ID. Regarding auth mode, just keep it as OAuth2 and use Composio auth. Then use this to initiate a connection to Twitter app, and you can pass in any redirect URL. Make sure that you pass the integration. So this will generate a new URL. So when user visits this link, a new integration would be created with Twitter and a new entity ID would be created. So next is entity connected. So this function is used to check whether an entity is connected to an app or not. So in this case, I'm checking if they are connected to Twitter or not. So just like before, you need to create a new instance of Composer toolset. Create a new variable called entity and then use entity.getConnection and pass in the app name. The user has already connected or authenticated, then I'm sending yes as a response. If not, then I'm sending the authenticated status as no as response. Next function is create new entity. In this function, I'm checking if a particular user is connected or has connected to Twitter. If not, then I'm initiating a new connection and then sending them the URL to authorize. The next file is new_tweet_repost. Basically, in this file, I have defined the agent code, how to make a post and how to repost an existing post on Twitter. So this is the function that I'm using when user tries to make a new post. This function accepts the initial tweet entity ID. This is the admin's entity ID, initial tweet and repost data list. So first I'm calling the tweet function. I'm getting the API key. Then I'm creating an instance of Composer toolset. Then I'm storing the tools in this variable. Basically, this is the code snippet for it. Composer toolset.getActions, and I need to specify the actions in this format. So in this case, I want to make a new post, right? Go to Composer, click on Twitter integration and actions, and then look for post. Copy this action ID and then just paste it. This is the agent from Crew AI, and this is the role that I'm assigning it, Twitter agent, and the goal is to create and post tweets on Twitter. So here I'm assigning the tools. This is the task description, and this is how you are supposed to specify it. The task description, the agent, and the expected output. So in this case, after the post is made, I want the tweet ID because while reposting, I would need this. Next is the crew. Here I need to specify the agents, the tasks, and this code will start the agent. So once this is done, it is going to return a tweet ID. I'm storing the tweet ID in this variable. After that, I'm using the repost data list, which contains the entity ID and the code for the user on behalf of whom we need to repost. I'm checking if the code exists. If it exists, then I'm reposting the tweet along with the code. If not, I'm just passing the tweet ID and the user ID and not asking the agent to repost it with a code. So this is the function repost_tweet. So again, I'm storing the Composer API key, creating an instance of Composer toolset. But in the tool section, since now I need to repost it, sometimes with a code and sometimes without a code, there is another action. Let me show you. So there is this action that says, causes the user in the path to repost a specified post. So copy that action ID and then paste it here. If the tweet has to be reposted along with a code, then this action would be used. If the tweet has to be reposted without a code, then this action would be used. So this is the agent, and the role is Twitter agent, goal is to repost. But in this case, in the backstory, I've specified that you are an AI assistant. But if a code is provided, add the code to the tweet. If no code is provided, repost the tweet without a code. So accordingly, the agent will use the right action. Next is the task and the crew. This code will start the agent. So this is about creating a new tweet and reposting. The next function is repost_existing tweet. So if there is an existing tweet, you can pass in the URL, get the content, and then repost that. So in this file, I'm just reposting the existing tweet. This function is the entry point to this file. So it accepts the admin entity ID, the tweet ID that has to be reposted, and the repost data list. The repost data list contains the entity ID and the code. So if the code exists, then the repost would be done along with the code. If not, normal repost would be done. This is the function repost tweet. Again, I'm loading the Composer API key, creating an instance of Composer toolset, specifying the actions, that is Twitter creation of a post, and Twitter causes the user in the path to repost a specified post. So if the code is specified, then this action would be used. If not, then this would be used. I have provided the appropriate backstory to the agent so that it can use the right action.